This video is basically a summary over Confinement and mainly a discussion based off of what we know and can theorize. So not much about Lord Bung's situation and how we got here in the first place, as that's been covered to death, but rather sticking to the show and the development of it, so no bashing on Lord Bung or Orion, from me at least. If you didn't know, Lord Bung goes by she, her pronouns, so that's what I'll be using. I'll be summarizing the episode 8 script that was leaked, as well as theorizing and piecing together what I can of the show. I don't know where it's from, but I'll leave a link if you want to read it in the description, along with the archived drive that has basically everything from Confinement in it. Before I start, I'd recommend rewatching the series or watching it if you haven't, but either way, here's a recap.
I'd say it's always story-driven, in that there is a purpose for the events that take place in relation to our main character. I just use the comedy to prevent the story from getting stupidly dark and needlessly nihilistic. As with Connor's immortality, in episode 1 it is revealed that Connor faces no threat from Ferdinand intentionally, so that Connor's insecurities can be introduced to the audience, his fear of being compared to a monster. In episode 2, the primary risk for Connor is that he would be stuck as a log. It's not that big a deal, but the events that take place highlight the idea of permanence and conflict between being uprooted or being taken care of. In episode 3, Connor has to face the risk of being neurologically piloted by a jealous robot. Seeing as he can't die, you can imagine how nightmarish that would be. The episode establishes Connor's discomfort around other people, the robot being the most extreme example possible. But this experience actually helps Connor open up and make a new friend. Also, this wasn't intentional, but Connor and Natalie asked each other out between episodes 3 and 4 because of that therapy rescheduling. Okay, bye. In episode 4, there is no danger of health and well-being. It's more of an emotional one. In this episode, Connor opens up to Natalie about his abandonment issues because of his mother. Then shortly after, meets an SCP who has the exact same backstory. Thinking that they could be friends, she vanishes in pursuit of closure, leaving Connor alone to wonder if he could ever be so lucky. In episode 5, the threat is simply that Connor would be a silver person in some makeshift slum for the rest of his existence. But this measly and pathetic threat is quickly denied by something potentially more dangerous for everyone, including Connor. But I can't say anymore. Good question.
Episodes 6 to 7 starts off taking place in SCP-3008, the Infinite IKEA. Connor is suffering memory loss due to a wooden splinter that was lodged into his brain from a fall, leaving him unable to recall his own name or identity. He gets picked up by the members of the Canopy tribe, who initiate him into their group under the new nickname of Thorn. Thorn instantly wins the respect of most of the tribe due to his newfound fighting skills, to the point of that their medic's stethoscope grows a crush on him. However, Thorn quickly draws the ear of fellow warrior Stanley, who has his own crush on Steth. Growing increasingly jealous and resentful over how much she and the rest of the tribe admire Thorn, meanwhile, Thorn himself is simply concentrated with his own personal insecurities, while the Foundation has to figure out how to recontact Connor so that he can recover all his memories and escape from the Infinite IKEA. Connor successfully escapes from SCP-3008 with most of the Canopy tribe, except Stanley, who was left behind for killing Connor earlier. However, they all get fused together by the teleporting staple gun. Connor breaks free by getting himself killed, leaving the tribe stuck together as one big fleshy blob. On the plus side, Connor reunites with Natalie, and Ian Steele is given a new human body so that he can finally return to his loved ones. But Dr. Stavros finds something unusual about one of the tribe members, while Natalie's still trying to find answers about Connor's secret SCP file. Meanwhile, Stanley is still tied up, left to be killed by the enemy tribesmen. Here's Natalie in pain, presumably after discovering something disturbing about Connor's anomalous powers. Now with that out of the way, on to episode 8 and 9. Originally, Lord Bung intended for episode 8 to have an A and B plot that continues through to episode 9, making it a two-parter. But after realizing how long it would take to make, she decided the best course of action was to split the B plot into episode 8, and the A plot would be saved for episode 9. Knowing that, I'm going to go off of the original episode 8 script, summarizing and then piecing together how the story would have gone down. Confinement Episode 8 starts off on Connor being tested with SCP-504, Bad Joke Tomatoes. They are basically tomatoes that aggressively throw themselves at anyone who tells a bad joke. Connor is still violently irritable and agitated from his extended mission in the Infinite IKEA. He hasn't been able to contact Natalie since his return, so his longing for his girlfriend is compounded by his inability to mentally process the events that took place. Connor hesitantly continues with the testing, reading the last joke. 2009 is going to be a complex year. We already know the real part. We still have to find the imaginary part. The tomato throws itself, heavily indenting the tempered glass, leaving Connor unharmed. Connor, being relieved of his tasks, walks towards the exit, but slips on a normal tomato, splitting his eye open on the corner of the table, killing him instantly. Connor respawns, kicking his corpse hard in the chest, to then angrily dart towards Dr. Kendrick. In one swift movement, Connor snatches the pencil out of Kendrick's mouth, pins Kendrick to the wall, and presses the point of the pencil against his throat. Connor says, "I'm serious, not a single fucking word about fucking tomato," getting abruptly cut off by the shock of a taser. It's mentioned how Connor has been acting less compliant since his arrival from the IKEA. He mentions he hasn't been able to see Natalie since, As well as still not having gotten a reply, she's still unavailable to meet up for the time being. Connor's dead body is thrown down the garbage chute along with the tomatoes. This is the point where the story diverges into two plots, so again, I'll be going over episode 8, the B plot. The corpse falls down the chute, guided through a series of pipes until it exits and flops onto a bloody mattress on the floor. 3 Igor Connors are just chilling until the corpse arrives, to which they spring into action, carrying the corpse across the room to the operating table. One of the Igors really likes feet and plays with the corpse's foot. SCP-049 is revealed to be sitting in the same room. If you didn't know, SCP-049 is a medieval plague doctor that can kill through skin contact, and is able to bring him back from the dead, kinda like a zombie. He makes his way to the operating table. Noticing what Igor's doing, he smacks him upside the head with his bare hand, causing him to slowly dissolve into a half-melted corpse. SCP-049 performs crude surgery, giving him life. The corpse from now on is referred to as NewMeat. He's picked up by the remaining Igors and thrown down a second garbage chute, labeled as Society. He's hurtled into an alleyway filled with waste and parasites. NewMeat lands inside of a trash can, sitting right next to a cardboard box, grabbing his ribs in pain. The kick from the original Connor in Kendrick's office has cracked his ribs and given him a raspy voice and persistent cough. He's stuck, scared, and confused. As NewMeat tries to make his way out of the trash, he's greeted by Chemo Connor, who has been living in the nearby box the whole time.
Hey, new guy. I haven't seen you around. When'd you get here?
Chemo Connor rejoices in excitement at the thought of recruiting a new disciple of his faith. NewMeat finally realizes what Chemo Connor meant by the cup spilling once again, and has a flashback to every single time he's died, with every death being somebody here. The full realization of the situation he's found himself in is crashing onto him. His face is beet red, he's crying, he's shaking violently, hugging his ribs as tight as he can, and he's making a weird noise as if his body was physically, painfully stopping him from letting out a blood-curdling scream. Chemo Connor explains that he understands him more than anyone else here, and that this place isn't that bad, and he'll learn to like it. Not like he has a choice, as any attempt at escape is punishable by death. NewMeat gives no response and begins sprinting away from the alley, down the street in a panic. He bumps into a large violent gang of mutated Connors who instantly start surrounding him with malicious intent. They berate him with insults over how intact his body is, calling him a freak. As they are about to club him, he runs off, passing by dozens of different Connors. One Connor tells him if he wants a safe place, he can go to the cafeteria, so he does so, running off. As he makes it there, NewMeat is greeted by Chemo Connor, who introduces him to a bunch of other Connors as they pass by, making their way to the busba, the entertainment stage. He settles down, talking with others about how they are too embarrassed to share how they really died. NewMeat, noticing the empty stage, runs up towards it and begins to preach about the unfairness they all experience here. But after mentioning he's only been here for 6 minutes, he gets tossed out of the place for being NewMeat, the new guy. Shortly after, he's approached by fungal Connors and is harassed for his new ideas about change and respect, so he throws baking soda at them and hides in the tattoo parlor. Again, greeted by Chemo Connor, he's introduced to and offered a job by the supervisor, who's possessed by an oven mitt puppet. He shows him around the fighting ring of Connors located in the back room of the center. Many of the audience members are owned by puppets. NewMeat is stone-faced, but horrified. The supervisor mentions he can be a fighter and stuff, but NewMeat wants nothing to do with this, so he punches the supervisor, who then threatens him with a revolver, saying he won't let some brat destroy his blood-drenched empire. He commands a small robot that projects a hologram of Tupac to go off and kill NewMeat. NewMeat stops running at the edge of a platform over sewage water. Suddenly, the land between NewMeat and Tupac split. Revealing NewMeat to be riding a waste boat, the robot and Tupac continue to run after him, falling into their death. NewMeat relaxes and sits down, catching his breath. He notices how rotten his flesh is close up and hates it. NewMeat looks out onto the passing city as the boat moves slowly. In a depressed state, NewMeat gets off the waste boat as it hits the harbor. He looks back to see Tupac coming out of the water, followed by the robot projecting him. Just as Tupac is about to kill NewMeat, it's suddenly flattened by a giant glass containment unit holding the living Connor. The Connors across the CR surround the box and begin berating the Connor inside. Chemo Connor comes up to NewMeat and asks if he gets it now. NewMeat responds with nothing but silence. What follows after is my own theory about how the episode continues based off of the archived clips and pics. Afterwards, NewMeat would have reluctantly gotten a job working at the Connor fighting arena since he finally came to his senses. But after a while of living in what feels like hell, he gets back to trying to stir up a crowd on his side to figure out a way to escape and seek a better means of existence. He tries to motivate the misfits, but to no avail. He then turns to the Shroom Connors for help, but gets his hand torn off. With a missing limb, he goes to Dr. Connor, who fixes him up by replacing it with a prosthetic crocodile clamp hand. He gets a new sense of motivation to escape, but realizes he'll have to do it on his own, as everyone else is too complacent in their current way of life. NewMeat tries different paths of escape, first trying with different jetpacks and wings, and then trying to get a teleporter, but fails at each method until finally getting launched with a rocket and landing atop of the research building. He gets knocked down and tries to make his way to an exit, having to go through an experience, if you could call it that. Ultimately, managing to escape, being saved by this unknown lady, who I'm pretty sure decides to trash the security camera footage that could have otherwise gotten NewMeat killed. That again leaves us with the plot hole of what he could have done after escaping, which is why he might have just returned back to the renewal center and embraced living here, as I guess the SCP staff became a part of the community, making it better. That's really all I can think of for the episode 8 ending, as it's supposed to be its own self-contained story. I plan to do the same thing for episode 9 in another video, but that's all I have for now, so let me know how you think it would have ended.